You ever wonder how two people can start at the exact same place in life, but a decade later, one is thriving and the other is, well, not? It's not always about a lucky break or some crazy high salary. A lot of the time, it really just comes down to the math and figuring out which path you're actually on. So let's get into it. So let me introduce you to Marcus and Jaime. They're both 38 years old. They graduated around the same time, started their careers with pretty much identical paychecks. Fast forward to today, Marcus pulls up his investment app and sees $187,000 just quietly growing. His biggest financial stress is whether to add to his portfolio or go on vacation. Meanwhile, just a few miles away, Jaime is staring at a credit card statement. That balance, it's creeping up to almost $7,000. He makes good money, he really does, but it just seems to vanish every month. So what's the deal? Same age, same starting line, same raw potential. How did one guy build a nest egg that's growing on its own, while the other is sinking into debt? That's the question, right? And that's exactly what we're going to unpack. To really get how their paths split so dramatically, we first have to clear something up about the numbers. See, the way we usually talk about wealth in America is almost perfectly designed to confuse us. You hear this stat all the time, right? That the average American household has a net worth over $1 million. And okay, technically, that's true, but it's so misleading. It's like this. If Jeff Bezos walks into a bar with 10 other people, the average person in that bar is now a billionaire. But does that change anything for the other 10 people? Of course not. That's why we have to look at the median, the household smack dab in the middle. And that number, it's way lower, just under $200,000. Big difference. And here's why that average is so out of whack. The wealthiest 10% of households in the country own about 2/3 of everything. Meanwhile, the entire bottom half of the population holds less than 4%. So when you hear about the average, you're not hearing about the typical person's experience. You're hearing a number that's been pulled way up by a very small group at the top. And this, right here, might be the most important number of all. After 40+ years of working, saving, doing everything you're supposed to do, the median American household gets to retirement with about $410,000. Just let that sink in for a second. For most people, $500,000 isn't some milestone they cruise past. It's a finish line they never even get to. All right, so let's talk about the first huge milestone on the path to building real wealth. Getting it to that first $100,000. This number is critical, not for bragging rights, but because it totally changes the physics of how your money grows. It's an inflection point. The legendary investor Charlie Munger had a pretty famous and, let's say, colorful quote about this. He said, the first $100,000 is it rhymes with witch, and he said you have to get there no matter what it takes. He knew what he was talking about. The grind to get there is an absolute beast, but what happens after is exactly why it's worth it. Just think about the math here. If you manage to save and invest $10,000 a year, it'll take you almost 8 years to hit that first 100K. But you know how long it takes to get the next 100K? Just over 5 years. And the one after that? Under 4. See what's happening? You're adding the same chunk of wealth, but the timeline keeps shrinking. The snowball is picking up speed. And why is that? It's because at $100,000, your money finally gets a real job. Assuming a 7% return, that portfolio is now making $7,000 a year by itself, without you lifting a finger. It's like you've hired a silent employee who works 24/7, never takes a vacation, and all they do is make you more money. This is when compounding stops being a word in a textbook and starts being a force you can actually feel. Now, you'd think once you get past that first tough 100K, the journey to $500,000 would be a straight shot. But for most people, it's not. This is actually where the financial journey stalls out for good. In fact, something like 3 out of every 4 American households will never, ever cross this line. And the reason is this kind of perfect storm of financial pressure that hits you right in your prime earning years. You've got soaring housing costs, you've got the sneakily destructive power of car payments, and then there's this thing called the Henry trap. It stands for high earner, not rich yet. It's a real thing. Let's just zoom in on one of those for a second, the car payment. $735 a month? I mean, that sounds totally normal, right, doesn't it? Millions of people have a payment just like it, or even bigger. It feels like just another bill. Manageable. But what if that monthly payment isn't the real cost? What is the true price tag of that decision when you look at it over the long run? Okay, get ready for this. If instead of paying the car company, you paid yourself, investing that same $735 a month for 30 years at an average 10% return, it would grow to over $1.6 million. Let that sink in. You didn't just buy a car. You literally traded a multi-million-dollar retirement for it. The real price isn't what you pay today. It's the future wealth that just never gets to exist. So, what about the people who actually navigate all these traps? The ones who do hit that $1 million mark? How do they pull it off? Well, the truth is, it's the complete opposite of what you see on Instagram. It's actually, believe it or not, kind of boring. There was a huge study of over 10,000 millionaires, and what they found was just fascinating. Almost 80% of them got zero inheritance, not a dime. A full third of them never even made a 6-figure salary in a single working year. They just got there after on average 28 years of slow, steady, consistent, boring investing. And that brings us to the other reality check. For most people, becoming a millionaire doesn't mean yachts and quitting your job at 35. It means hitting that seven-figure mark somewhere around age 60, which then allows you to have a much more secure and comfortable retirement than everybody else. And that's an incredible accomplishment. It's just not the wild fantasy some people are selling. But look, all of these milestones, the 100K, the 500K, the $1 million, they're all governed by one single variable that is way more powerful than how much you make or what stocks you pick. And that variable is time. Check out these numbers. If you want to be a millionaire by age 65 and you start at 22, you only need to invest about $117 a month. Not bad, right? But what if you wait until you're 30? Now that number more than doubles to $263. Wait until you're 40, you're looking at $754 a month. The pattern is brutal. Every 5 years you wait, the cost to get to the exact same goal basically doubles. Let's look at it in an even simpler way. Take one single dollar. If you invest that dollar at age 22, it has the potential to become about $88 by retirement. But if you wait and invest that same dollar at age 40, it only turns into about $12. When you wait, you're not just losing a few years. You are actively choosing to trade $88 of your future for just a tiny fraction of that. So you see, this isn't really about destiny. It's not about luck. All these numbers, all these different paths, they all come down to a series of choices, decisions. Let's go back to Marcus and Jaime. Marcus, because he started early and just stayed with it, he's on a clear path to hit $1 million, probably around age 58. He's not a genius. He just let time and compounding do the heavy lifting. And what about Jaime? Well, the good news is he's not out of the game. He absolutely has time. If he gets serious about that debt and starts investing aggressively right now, at 38, he can still build a really solid future. But the key is now, not next year, not after he gets a raise, now. Because in the end, for most of us, the destination is the same: financial security. A life where money isn't a constant source of stress. But as we've just seen, the price tag to get there changes drastically. And the one thing you have complete control over is when you decide to pay it. So the